Should the Jeep Gladiator and the Ford Ranger Raptor be scared? Because right now they have a promising competitor, and believe me, this competitor has the reliability. I mean, look at how well built it is. Oh my goodness, listen to that sound. And you even get soft close. See, like this, and you just have to push it, and it closes. Let's just admire how well built everything is. Look at this. The Jeep Gladiator is beautiful, it has a rich history, and it is just desirable. It makes far more sense than the Wrangler itself. But the biggest problem would be its reliability. The Ford Ranger Raptor, on the other hand, beautiful. It's like the small sibling to the Ford F-150 Raptor. But the thing is, it is bulky, right? It is not entirely off-road friendly. I mean, be realistic. Would you really go off-roading with that thing? You could if you wanted to, but it's just not as well built or solid as this Grenadier. Wait. Let's not get too excited. There's just one big problem. There's a big opponent which the Grenadier has. It's called the Japanese competitors. That's right, I just said it. The Toyota Hilux, Nissan Navara, I can confirm these guys are bulletproof when it comes to reliability. They last a lifetime. And this Grenadier, on the other hand, well, guess what's powering it? A BMW engine. This one is a diesel engine, so it makes far more sense than that petrol engine I saw in that other Grenadier. In fact, this Grenadier pickup truck makes far more sense than the passenger version Grenadier. Forget passenger versions. This is what you need. But then on the other hand, you see, when it comes to reliability, I have no doubts about the BMW engine. Over here is a 3-liter BMW diesel engine. Now, it is the reason why I was excited about it being a diesel engine is because when it comes to SUVs, 4x4s, or heavy vehicles, diesel engines always make more sense. They are more economical, and also, especially when you go for a long journey on the highway. Although, would you really take a Grenadier for a long journey on the highway? I know a lot of people did that back in the days with their Defender, the original Land Rover Defender. I just want to talk about this engine. Be very careful with it. Do your due maintenance. Just do everything that's needed to be done. Do not neglect it. Do not abuse it, because the moment you abuse it, that's when the engine tends to crumble. And I'm not saying this about Grenadier. I'm talking about German engines in general. So whether it's from Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen Group, you really need to look after their engines. Japanese cars, on the other hand, you do whatever they want and they start up instantly. Here is the refuel cap of the diesel and the AdBlue. So, brief story about the Ineos Grenadier. The philosophy behind the Ineos Grenadier was for it to be a modernized version of the extinct Land Rover Defender. Now, don't be confused. I'm referring to the classic Land Rover Defender, the boxy one, which everybody absolutely loved. But unfortunately, they decided to discontinue it in favor of something a bit modernized in their view, which is basically Land Rover Discovery and Defender combined together, and they call it Defender. But, you know, to me, to all of us, it's obvious it's just not the same thing as before. So somebody took the courage to build this bad boy right here. Now, let's take a look at it together. So in my last video, when I reviewed the Ineos Grenadier, I did point out how the front reminded me of the Iveco Massif. But then it also could be noted that from certain angles, it does resemble the Land Rover series. Now, because this is a pickup version Grenadier, we get a longer wheelbase, which means a more prominent door. This is a direct imitation of the Land Rover Defender 130. Well, sorry, imitation is not the right word. Reality actually is the right word, because they made it a reality, a desirable reality. And Ineos made life easy for us all because they put the spare tire right up here, not like on conventional pickup trucks where it's buried right underneath. Now, the Jeep Gladiator and the Ford Ranger Wildtrak, they have an interesting rear door. They have something more soft, right? That has a more controlled descent, or that has a softer close when you close it. But for this Ineos Grenadier, it just slides down literally. So you have to control the descent yourself. And you also get a 230 volt socket. The price of this particular Grenadier pickup truck is not precise, but the idea we get is around 85,000 euros to 90,000 euros. This over here is no snorkel. Now, there's something a bit confusing, but just bear with me a little bit. It's supposed to be an additional air intake from above, okay? So the way it's designed is in such a way that it doesn't get dust apparently, so it's ideal for when you're in the desert. So like if, for instance, the front grille is overwhelmed and everything, you get this backup air intake up here. Now I'm trying to understand how this makes any sense, but then to be fair, I've seen this practice being used on trucks. Like if you study some trucks, they do have an additional air intake above. I don't know, I always thought it was a snorkel or something. But then on the other side of the scale, 85,000 euros to 90,000 euros, wouldn't it make sense to have a snorkel anyways, like a real snorkel? What you can do, apparently I was told that this is a do-it-yourself task. You can actually watertight this area if you wanted to make it a real snorkel. Unfortunately, you do not get a 360-degree parking camera, but you do get parking sensors at the front and at the rear. For this price range, not having a 360-degree parking camera can be questionable. Now it is time to check out the interior of the Ineos Grenadier. Yes, that's right, I had to climb inside quickly because it's a steep climb inside. Now the interior is largely similar to the passenger version Ineos Grenadier. There's not much difference. It's just like the original Land Rover Defender. But the biggest thing is that you get buttons just about everywhere. Thank God at least they don't have a huge tablet like you get in the Ford Ranger Raptor. So it's like a military vehicle, really. It's like a military pickup. Now the disadvantage really is that despite aspiring to be like the original Land Rover Defender, the original Land Rover Defender was bread and butter basic, whereas this has buttons just about everywhere. There are some comfort features like heated seats, defrost for windows, that's great. And also you get climate control buttons, media buttons, great, wonderful. And if I'm correct, that's a compass right there. That is sweet and delicious. And you even get additional buttons right here. But then this is where the problems begin. Why exactly do you need buttons for off-road and waiting? Because the moment I see buttons for off-road and waiting, this is when I start to think more gadgets, isn't it? When it comes to off-roading, the last thing you need is fancy buttons and fancy gadgets, which is why the Japanese are always going to be reliable, because they really focus on the necessary details, not fancy buttons for off-road modes or whatnot. Now, I was not a fan of this micro display right there, which is only dedicated to your warning lights. But then I was explained that this is actually for ease of visibility outside, so that you don't get distracted by the speedometer. You instead get to look outside what's happening. And this is good because if you look outside, the visibility is decent. If you have this right seating adjustment, put your seat as forward as possible. Now, being a pickup version, you get the cabin crew, so it's great. Let's check out the rear seats. See how good they are. They are quite average for a pickup truck, but just a bit higher to climb into. You get a 230 volt socket. That's the first thing I noticed. And you even get two charging ports, USB charging ports. Great. And air vents down there. Wonderful. It is cramped. I'm already going to tell you this. Although you can just put your arm onto this nice wide window sill right here. There's no backseat pocket. There's just this hard plastic over here. It's not meant to be comfort oriented. I can already tell you that. Headroom is good. Feet room is decent. It's a bit on the limited side. Whereas my knee room is good depending on the seating adjustment of the snobbish front passenger that decided to move their seat all the way to me. So here is my conclusion of the Grenadier pickup. Now, I believe the Jeep Gladiator should be very afraid because yes, it has a rich history, it's beautiful. I personally like the design, but I really am scared of its reliability history. And if not its reliability, I just think, you know what, it's not really something you'd go off-roading with, is it, right? It's just too good you wouldn't go off-roading with. But this, on the other hand, is well built. And on the other side, you have the Ford Ranger Raptor, and it is way cheaper than this Ineos Grenadier. So yes, the Jeep Gladiator has to be afraid, but the Ford Ranger Raptor has nothing to worry about because, I mean, it is cheaper, more desirable. It's still more interesting, at least for me. I love the Raptor. Which leads us to wonder, what exactly does this Ineos Grenadier have? I'll tell you all what it has. Big potentials. Yes, I just said it. It has potentials. This is a promising off-roader. It is more off-road centric, really. And the BMW engine has been tuned for this work. It's not like the other BMW models where they're only going to be used on the tarmac 24/7. There is just everything you need for a proper off-road session. Now, is it something you're going to depend on if you're in the middle of nowhere and you need it as a daily driver? I know personally I would stay away from this, the same way I would stay away from a Ford Ranger Raptor or a Jeep Gladiator. Instead, if I were in that situation where I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'd go straight for something Japanese, because the last thing I want is any insecurity. And the Japanese, they tick all the boxes in that regard. This, on the other hand, is perfect if you have a company, or if it's for the law enforcement, military, fire department, or even a construction company. This is in other words, what I'm trying to say is that this is perfect for professional use. But then it's also perfect if you needed something that really is a defender for the 2020s. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos that are on the run. I will see you all next time.